All right, you are live on YouTube.
Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Why don't we get started with our meeting of the Airport Advisory Board. Unfortunately, Commissioner Lance couldn't join us today, so I'll be facilitating our meeting this afternoon. So why don't we start with our first agenda item, which is the roll call. Is someone going to go through our list of names? Let's see.
Alana, I can probably help with that. I think I've got a
Okay.
roster here in front of me, so let me just go through this real quick if I could.
Yep.
I think we've already acknowledged that Commissioner Lance was not able to join us today. And then Vice Mayor Katie Ferris has actually stepped down from the City Commission. So that is actually a vacant seat on the board right now. And so I will go through the rest of the names. Joe Soborowski.
Here.
Alana White.
Here.
Kara Beer.
Here.
Tim Osterhaus. Vester Davis.
Present.
Kelly Scott.
Here.
T.R. Shaw.
Here.
And Amy Ratcliffe. I'm sorry, it's Amy Ratliff.
Present. I'm present.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Ted. All right, let's go to the next agenda item. Everyone should have a copy of the agenda. Can I have a motion for, first of all, motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved. Kelly Scott.
Support, Kara.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Okay. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, sounds good. The next item on the agenda is to review and approve the meeting minutes, which are also in your packet. I'll give you a couple of minutes to look over them. All right, can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes if there are no changes?
Motion to approve, Vester Davis.
Support, Kelly Scott.
Any additions, discussions, questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All
Aye.
those opposed? All right, that passes. Awesome. So why don't we jump right into the presentation of the final governance review. Penny, should I turn this over to you?
Alana, we actually have Stephen Baldwin and Associates. We actually have Spencer here. He's gonna go
Oh,
over.
sorry, I apologize.
That's all right.
Hi, this is Spencer Gillette. Thank you, Alana, for turning it over to us. And so I'd just like to start off by thanking this board for all their work and input throughout the governance review process. With that and all of the work that was done and the analysis came to this final report, all information that was presented during the course of the governance review. And this is just a final document to record that and to promote the final recommendations, which are that as of today, we are recommending that the airport stay as is underneath the city. Upon such time that the airport is in a better financial position and becomes financially self-sufficient, at that time they would in transition to a regional airport authority. And that recommendation really came about through stakeholder input, the financial review, and the available models within the state of Michigan. And through all that time, the regional airport authority was definitely a favored model. However, with the current financial state of the airport still relying on that subsidy, there are some other things that have come about through this review particularly regarding financial improvements and other organizational changes that could help promote the airport is the recommendation. And I'd just like to turn your attention to page 60 of that report, where we list those governance recommendations that are going to help the airport today, really to try to bridge that gap in that current shortfall financially. So we'd just like to start out with acknowledging that there was definitely a lot of input that pointed towards the public itself within the community not really having a great handle of the airport and what it does in its entirety. And we know that through the economic impact study, this airport is really, really important for the overall community, and marketing it in such a way, using that economic impact data, as well as other community outreach, should be very important to really support the airport as it grows and expands its operation. And then also the continued focus and development on the airport, both on the aeronautical side as well as non-aeronautical. And right now, we know that the airport's kicking off an ALP update and review, and as part of that, they're going to start to look at those facility needs there and how the airport can expand out into the future as well. Along with this, we talked a little bit about the financial analysis, and there are some things within that analysis specifically that could be done today, but as well as in the future, as far as that development goes, and possible an evaluation of like rates and charges, making sure those are up to industry standards, and some of the typical ways that an airport captures revenue to be able to operate efficiently and effectively. So these are all things that are combined together that we think are going to help the airport today, leading towards that recommendation to eventually transfer to a regional airport authority. With that, I guess I would turn it over to the board if there's any questions on this final report.
Are there questions from anyone or comments even?
I just had a quick question. You mentioned an AOPA update. What exactly will they be looking at, and what are they doing? Because I'm a member of AOPA.
Well, it's the airport layout plan is the ALP update. Phil, I guess I would turn it over to you to talk a little bit about that scope if you'd like.
Yeah, it's actually going to be an ALP update TR, not instead of AOPA. So I'll go over in the presentation here shortly what exactly that's going to cover.
I have a question. I don't know if it's for Ted or if it's for our consultants, but knowing what we know in the financial analysis, and I know, Ted, you've talked about, the city has ideas for some of these changes that need to be made to become self-sufficient. Any estimated timeline that might take? I know there's a lot of variables.
Yeah, and Kelly, I think that Phil will address some of this as we get through the rest of the agenda today. There were a couple of key factors that came out of our conversations that we wanted to implement fairly quickly. One of them is the update of the ALP. And Phil's going to go over this. I don't want to steal too much of his thunder, but we talked about a master plan update versus an ALP update. And then Phil did some analysis with some consulting help that determined that we probably ought to recommend an ALP update for financial reasons and because it accomplishes most of our objectives relative to creating that vision, that firm, solid vision for what future development at the airport would look like, particularly on the west side. So that's, Kelly, we're going to get that going right away. Phil will talk about the overall time frame. It's a lengthy process, obviously, but we're going to get going on that. And then we have budgeted, another key recommendation from our conversation back in February was restructuring the org chart at the airport to better position it to pursue economic development opportunities. And so we have budgeted for that in fiscal year 23. And so we are in the process now, and that's also obviously one of the recommendations in the report here too. to look at the org structure. We're in the process of reconfiguring starting July 1st, which is the start of our new fiscal year. So that is moving immediately. There are some items in a business plan that was put together a few years ago that are, I think, probably great ways to approach the bullet point number 1 in the final report, which talks about this idea of creating more general public awareness of the value of the airport. Plus, this process also yielded an economic impact study for the airport, which was very valuable, and a marketing piece that we could use to help people understand the economic impact overall of the airport in our community. So we've got some of those pieces in place to do that marketing, I think, Kelly. So I would say most of this we're going to get on right away. It's going to take some time to pull off some of these pieces, but we're acting pretty aggressively on all of these recommendations.
Thank you, Ted. Any other questions? Or it sounds like we might want to just jump into the next agenda item, and that might help with, you know, kind of the further context. So why don't we do that? And if there are questions about the final report, we can go back to Spencer as needed. So Phil, I'm assuming this is your item.
Yeah, I'll share my screen here. Everybody see my screen? I have 2 screens up, so I'm not sure. Are you guys seeing the main one or the presentation one?
The presentation one.
Okay. I'll leave it up on the screen. It'll be bigger for everybody. So yeah, good afternoon, everybody. It's a great segue. Thank you, Kelly, for the question, and thank you, Ted, for going over some of those items. Spencer had mentioned the development of an ALP plan, so an airport layout plan. I'll talk about that and how it pertains to the airport and the difference between that and a master plan. So developing an airport layout plan versus pursuing an update to the airport master plan. We'll also look at, like Ted mentioned, the airport organizational structure and then capitalizing on the revenue opportunities. So like exactly what Ted was saying, a lot of these items were, if we haven't started on them, we're starting on them very shortly, but I think we've gotten a handle on most, if not all of these. So I have a quick presentation here that I'll show everybody. The first item, like we've talked about, is that airport layout plan. And it's very similar to an airport master plan. So the airport master plan includes an airport layout plan in it. The airport layout plan is going to be a long-term planning document that you're going to use as kind of a blueprint for development and capitalize on either current or future opportunities. The FAA looks at that airport layout plan and uses it also so they can get an idea of what's going on at the airport. And they have to actually approve that document so that you can go ahead and get future federal funding and grants for projects that you want to do on your airport. So we're currently, Spencer touched on this too, we're working with Spencer and his team to finalize the scope of the document, what it's going to include, what it's going to focus on, how we're going to use it going forward. Once we have that completed, and we've started working on that, but once that's completed, we'll work with the contractor. We're anticipating about an 18-month start to finish time frame just for that document. During that time, while they're going through the actual study, it's actually in the scope to have the consultant on here twice to kind of give really the vision is kind of an initial, and then kind of as we're going through sometime, how everything's going, what we're seeing, and maybe what, some of the possibilities that this airport layout plan can bring to the airport. So part of doing an ALP versus a master plan, Ted said a couple of them. The main ones are, it's going to capture the main pieces or the important pieces of a master plan. So there are certain items of a master plan that we thought, or we felt along with the consultants, weren't necessarily as helpful to the airport. They would take more time and they would require more financing. So that was going to allow us now for an earlier completion time, obviously giving us some faster implementation. And it's, obviously more economical, but it's still going to satisfy the needs of the airport and the needs of the FAA. Again, the FAA is going to need to sign off on this document so that we can continue with planning efforts, continue with federal dollars being funneled into the airport for projects. And it also gives us, the tenants, the folks on the advisory board, the airport, the city, the TIFA, it gives everybody an idea or a chance to see what they would like to have happen at the airport here. So in different pieces of the airport. So the consultants will come out with sets of drawings or different possibilities in different areas where we could see future development here at the airport. That's really the airport layout plan piece. And before I move on to the other parts, did anyone have any questions specifically about that item?
Phil, this is Alana. I do have a question. So I understand the rationale for doing the airport layout plan instead of the master plan. Is there a thought to still go through the master planning process at a later time?
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. That is definitely something that we're looking to do as well. We're going to start with this airport layout plan so we can have an idea of what to do. The airport master plan was last updated about 20 years ago in 2003. So it should be updated every 20 years. So that's why we're sticking with this kind of current option of the airport layout plan. But yes, we would like to go also with a master plan update somewhere down the line. We're not sure yet when we would do that, but I think that would also be helpful to take the other pieces that we're not covering as in depth and go over those in the future. That would also help with development. So thank you. Great question, Alana.
Thanks, Phil. And one other comment, because I know we're not at the centennial item, but I'm wondering if maybe a master plan, just because the way the process involves a lot of community engagement, maybe there's a way to sync those up. Just given the recommendations around, improving the kind of visibility and from a public standpoint of the role and economic impact of the airport. Just a thought.
No, that's a great idea. And also kind of piecing together what you would see traditionally with a master plan. So yes, the community involvement piece, syncing that up as its own piece or a part of it, or maybe by the time we get there, having a master plan component. But yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right. Ted had briefly, again, talked about the airport organizational structure. Spencer had mentioned here in the final report, review the organizational structure. We've talked about it here in previous meetings, and that'll kind of allow the airport to meet with strategic goals and objectives, kind of free up the director to focus on airport development, financial success, other key metrics. We've budgeted that in for FY23. So we appreciate everyone's help and input on that. And it's really the only airport organizational structure slide I have. Does anyone have any questions there? All right.
Sorry, this is Alana again. Phil,
Oh, yeah,
what is
go ahead.
this? I'm sorry, I don't know that I understand what this means and how this is different than how you're already operating.
Yeah, that's fine. So it would we currently have 9, but we're going to hire a 10th person, another operations technician to work on the field here. So the other position or the extra position that we would include here, the director, there would be an assistant director to kind of help with the operations manager on kind of the day-to-day tasks. And then the operations manager overseeing everyone out in the airfield and obviously all of the folks in the airfield. So the director can work with the administrative assistant, can work with Penny. And like I'm saying, the long-term and strategic goals, working with whether it's BCU on West Side Development or any other possible clients that the airport might have, and really allowing the assistant aviation director to focus on shorter term projects or things that are happening at the airport along with the operations manager. So taking really a position from on the field or on the airfield and putting them into an administrative role to help out there.
Phil, maybe if you don't mind, I can add a little context to this too, just a little back history on this. So Alana, several years ago, we were working with a consultant who had recommended a change in the org structure. At the time, we actually had a transportation director who oversaw both the airport and the in our public transit agency. And the consultant had recommended that we really needed the airport director to be able to be in a stronger position to do economic development at the airport. And as a result, we actually hired a transit director and then allowed Larry, who was our transportation director at that time, to focus more energy on the airport. But the admin structure at the airport included only the director and the operations manager. The operations manager was tied up with the day-to-day activities of managing the field crew. And so the consultant had recommended what you really ought to have is a director who can focus more of their time on the strategic planning for the airport, the private sector development, work hand in hand with BCU, for example, on economic development opportunities, chase down leads, create leads, that kind of thing. And then implement an assistant aviation director, as Phil indicated, who could do more of the implement the strategic plan, for example, on a day-to-day basis, manage tenant relationships and the security plan and capital improvements and AIP grants and that kind of thing. And then have your operational manager do the day-to-day supervision of the staff. And that is something that we have been working towards. We haven't had the funding to fully implement until this upcoming fiscal year. And I think that's primarily what we're speaking to, putting that org structure in place as a result of, one, the city taking on the responsibility of managing the subsidy for the airport, and then following that recommendation that was, put in place, I'm going to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago now.
Thank you, Ted.
All right, any other questions for that? The last piece, I talked about the airport capitalizing really on the opportunities, west side development, any kind of development here at the airport. So we're continuing to examine all the possible revenue opportunities that were mentioned both here in this report and, like we had mentioned, with current opportunities. So working with BCU or working with folks around the city to capitalize on as many of those opportunities as we can. We've already engaged in some discussions with some possible tenants, so those have already started, and we're hopeful on a couple of those. And yes, the West Side Development, Advanced Air Mobility, UAS drone development, we're continuing to work on that. We're continuing to focus a lot of effort still on the west side, and we're hoping to pair this ALP, this updated ALP, with all of the other pieces that the airport's done. So economic impacts, the strategic marketing that the airport has gone through, a lot of the pieces will really come together through this ALP update. We'll be able to get a visual idea of what we can actually do here on the west side. We'll have an idea of what type of environmental parameters we need to meet. Any kind of infrastructure upgrades or changes that need to be made to allow for west side development or to enhance west side development, those will also be looked at. So the ALP is going to be a really big piece and a really big proponent of going forward and capturing a lot of these opportunities for development. So that's why we thought it was such a big, important piece in going forward and moving forward with gaining as much of an advantage of capturing the current and future opportunities that are out there, whether it's with advanced air mobility and UAS and drones, or any other again possible revenue opportunities that are out there. The last piece here, the capital planning for AIP and BIL or bill grants, the bipartisan infrastructure law grants. Like I said, this updated ALP will still allow us to receive airport improvement program funds, so federal funds used specifically for the airport. And the bill grants, there's kind of two different pots there. One of them, like I've stated here, is a competitive grant that the airport is eligible for. So there's 156 airports that have contract air traffic control towers. So we fall into that category. Back in May, I submitted 3 different grants totaling about $435,000 worth of requests from that competitive grant source. So there's the BIL grants where we'll be receiving $295,000 a year over the next 5 years. And then there are the competitive grants, which is $20 million a year over the next 5 years. And we have the opportunity, if we don't get a grant this year, we can reapply next year and the year after for the lifetime of that grant opportunity. So there's a lot of planning that's going to be taking place. And again, using the ALP will help with that in terms of what we need to implement, what we'd like to have, current infrastructure that we have, whether it's maintenance and repairs, expansions, anything that the airport currently has or needs. A lot of those will be addressed through this ALP development. So we're very excited to see what comes from that. So with that, I'll leave this slide up here because that's really the end of the slides. Anybody have any questions on the opportunities and really the airport development piece? All right, great. And that's all I have, Alana, unless anybody else has anything for me.
Any other questions or comments, thoughts?
Ilana, if I could just jump in real quick, I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to the chat real quick, if I could, before Colonel Kramer has to jump off. Colonel Kramer, are you still with us? Could you do a quick introduction real quick if you're still here?
Yes, sure can. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Great. Well, thank you. Yes, team. I can probably even share my ugly mug for a second here too. But yeah, thanks. I'm the new 110th commander. I come back from a tour over at Selfridge for 3 years as a support group commander. So this is new to me, exciting to be in this seat. But Battle Creek is not new to me. So nor are the missions here. So look forward to joining the team and hopefully, working some avenues and getting support to the airport, whether it be for flying missions or not. That I can't promise, but always looking for government opportunities for the government to support the local community. So more to follow as I get start wading into the wing command job. Over.
Thank you.
All right, and I do have to leave. I apologize. I've got to jump onto a 12:30 West Weapons Systems Council meeting, so I will look for the next invite and hopefully clear my calendar beforehand.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Take care.
All right, thanks. Look soon.
Why don't we go to the next item on the agenda, which is the update from the Centennial Committee.
Great. I'm TR Sean, chairing the Centennial Committee. We had a meeting this morning. Things are going really well with this. We have a good core group of people. Many of you are on our email list, and I hope you get involved in it going forward. We've got a lot of good things going on. Just to give you just a brief summary, we set up committee structures to be doing some of the committee events. Just some of the committees we have going. We plan to do an art exhibit. We're working with Rick Herter, who is an aviation artist, and the Art Center Battle Creek. Hopefully at the airport, maybe a few places around town for Spring into the Arts in 2024. We'd like to have a major aviation art exhibit in town. We're working on that. In addition to that, we have a lot of youth engagement. Penny, as you don't know, has been working very hard with the schools. She's had a lot of student groups come out to the airport for tours and doing things, and has done a lot of outreach with kids. What we want to do is the fall of 2023, we want to have a youth art competition in the schools and then have them featured with a professional artist when we do the art show. Those are just a couple of things going on. We're working on getting some historical plaques. We want to get a state marker for out in front of the old terminal there at Western. We're working on that. We've set up a publicity and marketing committee. This part of this, what we're doing with this is a great way to promote the airport, to basically educate the community on what we have here. I know we talked this morning about a lot of people don't even think, there's nothing going on at the airport. We don't have a airline here, so there's nothing happening, and that's a bad perception. It's the third busiest airport in the in the state, and there's phenomenal things going on out there that we need to promote and talk about. One of the big events we have going and working on is we're putting together a book on the history of the airport. We have got a group of historians here who are gathered pictures. Penny has gathered all the archive that they have, and we've got pictures going all the way back to the beginning of the airport. So we're hoping to put together a really nice keepsake book for that and have that together as a historical document and do that. So, and at the end, technically the centennial is September, I believe 14th, 2024, which was the date the airport was actually chartered. So this going forward offers a lot of opportunity for outreach, education, promotion. It's going really well, and anybody that wants to be involved in it, let me know. Some of you I know are on our email list and been doing that, so feel free to reach out to me. Penny, do you want to talk anything about the kids? What we've been doing?
Hello. If you'd like me to, yes.
Sure. Real quick.
Yep, I have been working throughout the COVID quarantine, if you would, on getting some stuff ready for groups to kind of come in. The airport has sent me and an intern to do like job fair type stuff at the local high schools. We've done Battle Creek Central before the lockdown. So I did have some brochures and pamphlets to kind of share with students what jobs there are in aviation besides pilot training and mechanics. We have done a fabulous job of partnering with Air National Guard Base, their Star Base program, which has students in 5th and 6th grade come in to the Guard Base and do STEM related projects 1 day a week for multiple weeks in a row. We are now one of their stops. They visit Andy's facility over there at Duncan. They also tour Western, and now they'll get to come over and visit with us. With the groups, we offer a tour through the building, which is offered to all of you if anyone wants to come out and visit us. Show them our snow vehicles, operations, what we do with wildlife management, some of our lighting systems, and we round out our tour with a stop over at the tower so they can get a view of how beautiful and massive our airfield actually is. The kids and staff and teachers have been really great. We've got a wonderful feedback. We've received letters from some of the classrooms thanking us and that they had a great time. And we are also doing some partnerships with Western to facilitate groups like simultaneously. So they'll come to us first and then we'll travel over to Western and then the tower and do kind of a whole day of it. So we've been working really hard to get some of these youngsters excited about aviation.
Great, thanks. So that is rolling along, and if anybody wants to jump in and help and be part of it, we'd love to have you involved. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments?
Alana, if you indulge me for a quick comment on behalf of the city.
Absolutely.
Yeah, on behalf of the city, we really want to thank TR and the team that's working on the centennial celebration. Obviously, given that the recommendation from the consultant is that we spend more time promoting the airport within the community. I mean, this is just invaluable work that TR and his team and group of volunteers is doing. So I just, on behalf of the city, want to recognize that hard work and thank you for not only recognizing and celebrating our airport, but helping us accomplish some of our strategic goals as well.
Thank you, Ted, and thank you, TR. Okay, we will keep it moving on the agenda. It looks like our next agenda item is to focus on the next meeting date and time. Phil, are you going to talk through this? Or is it just that we need to pick a date?
Yeah, that's fine. We had, the charter, I believe, says that the advisory board should meet quarterly. And so we did throw out 2 dates. Wasn't anything that has to be set in stone. If there are members or if anyone would like, we picked, I believe those, Penny and I believe those are Thursdays in September at 1 o'clock, but we are open with changing those. We put those 2 out there just to give some people an idea. So yeah, we can either vote about these or discuss these, pick a time for the next one. So put it on everyone's calendar early.
Are there any questions, any thoughts or particular comments about the date and times? Or any kind of initial feedback?
I should have said this too. We only need one of those, obviously, but we don't mind either way, the 22nd or the 29th.
It doesn't sound like there are any comments, so I'm wondering if we should just pick a date that works best for you, Phil, or you prefer, and then we go from there. If
22nd.
anyone- Oh, the 22nd, I'm sorry, go ahead, Vester.
Yeah, just the 22nd, just to make matters easier.
Okay, let's do it.
The only thing I just ask is that are you gonna send out a hold or something? Just make sure it gets on there as soon as possible. Or do you want us to do that ourselves?
No, we could do that. If we agree on that 22nd on that time, we can just send that out today if we wanted to.
That'd
Yes.
be great. All right. Next on the agenda is public comment. Are there any comments from anyone on the phone? From the public?
I don't have any colors, Colleen, in for public comment.
Thank you, Chad.
Yep.
Are there any member comments? All right, that being said, may I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Or
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on September 22nd.